The irreducible minimum for the Luo Nation is the position of deputy president. Anybody who desires to have a conversation with the Luo Nation should start by saying, I commit to appoint one of your own to be my running mate in the elections. Then the rest we can discuss. But if you want to rejig the presidency and bring fresh young blood that is full of revolutionary ideas to turn our economy and to change the trajectory of this nation, I'm here. So the choice is very clear. Choose between him and myself. And the people of Kenya will have their day to make that choice. So also with Kalonzo Musyoka. There's nothing new he's going to present to the people of Kenya, in my view. We've seen his policies, we've seen ideologies. He's been part of our politics and conversation for the last 40 years. There's nothing new he will bring.
Well, a very good day to you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Candid Talk here on Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. Welcome to Kenya's most comprehensive political and public governance analysis show. Of course, as I've always promised, is that we will always bring you up to date with comprehensive analysis of all that is taking place in this country, be it political, be it economic, anything that definitely affects your life in this particular great country and across our borders as well. Welcome to this conversation this fine morning. I'm joined by Wakili Willis Otieno. How are you, sir?
Fine, thank you.
And of course, my good name is Evans Okinyi. Do not forget that. Wakili, of course, the kind of political heat that we are witnessing in the country is somehow different from what we are used to, perhaps in the few past decades. There, in the political tides are changing, and this time round, of course, with the imminent exit of former, of course, Prime Minister of this country, Right Honorable Raila Odinga, from the political scene, definitely things are changing, and I can see people are actually aligning themselves therein. Now, I want us to make our viewers understand the kind of impact that this would actually have here. Now, we've got a looming kind of vacancy being left, first of all, within the ODM party, now being that the former Prime Minister was the leader in this, currently the leader of that particular party. I've seen the likes of the former Kakamega Governor, Wycliffe Ambetsa Oparanya, positioning himself there in the former governor of Mombasa, Ali Hassan Joho, also positioning himself to fit in that particular shoe. Let's begin from that particular end of ODM and just tell me what's your overall view. What do you think it will take for one of them to fit in the shoes of Baba in that particular party?
You know, the first thing that I must point out is that, in my view, and I may be wrong, I do not see within that party anybody who can fit the giant shoes of Raila Odinga. He has built a profile, he has built a national network, and a loyal cluster of troops that have stood by him. There's nobody else in that party, or even that Azimio coalition, that has created that stature that you can compare to Raila. So others will try to fill in the void once he goes to AU. Of course, it's naturally expected that power abhors a vacuum, and obviously somebody will want to fill that vacuum. But it is onerous upon those who desire to replace Raila in their party. Irreducible minimum as a Luo Nation.
Now, before we get to the other side of Kalonzo and discussing some bit of national politics, of course, you've talked of a vacant being left in ODM. We've tackled that, but also a vacant being left here. Do you think that, okay, he's going to AU, will that leave any vacancy in his, his backyard lowland?
Of course, what happens is that once Raila has sent to the AU chairmanship, remember Raila has been leading 50 million Kenyans. That is the constituency that he has been operating. Okay. Now, going to AU, Raila will be advocating for issues of 1.4 billion Africans. It is a larger geographical expanse, number one. Number two is many countries are involved, more than 54 countries. Number five, the numbers are mind-boggling. 1.4 billion people are the ones that Raila is going to be advocating for their interest as the AU chairperson. So obviously, once he assumes that role, even if he wanted to, the limitations of time and the exigencies of human nature, he may not have the full time to engage in Kenyan politics. Because even the issues that the Kenyans are talking about here, they are local issues. And these are only limited to 50 million people. Now, at the continental stage, you will be advancing the issues and interests of 1.4 billion Africans. And you have emerging issues from every corner of the continent every single day. You don't even know what you're waking up to. So it's a tasking responsibility. I mean, for a person of Raila's stage, I know the energy that it takes to any office that he occupies. His hands will unfortunately be fully tied to dealing with these issues. And in my view, even if he meant well and he would have desired to come back to Kenya, once he ascends to that office, the dynamics changes. So there will be definitely a vacuum because there's nobody in ODM who at this particular point in time has built the same stature that Raila did. And ODM as a political party will feel the departure of its luminary.
Now, this has been discussed, but then let's get to the national impact of his departure herein. Kalonzo Musyoka, he's actually counterpart in the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya coalition, of course, is one of the principles therein. He's actually positioning himself to take over from Raila. But of course, I saw your party leader, Honorable Jimmy Wanjigi, tell Kalonzo to actually fold up and actually retire with Raila, saying that he doesn't have anything different that he can actually offer to the country. So according to Jimmy Wanjigi, it would be better if Kalonzo also retires with Baba, if at all that was the exit plan of Raila Odinga here. What do you make of Jimmy Wanjigi's sentiments?
You know, that position is informed by the reality of this nation today. That, you know, Raila has been has bestrode the political scene in Kenya like a colossus. He's the most consequential figure in our politics in the last generation. For the last 30 years, I don't believe that we've had a more consequential political figure like Raila Odinga in terms of shaping the political trajectory of this country. Nobody can measure up to his history. So if you have that consequential figure exiting the stage to go continental, then it only means that it's a new beginning. It's a new beginning for everybody. It means that we must have a reset of our politics. So Raila's move, in a way, rejigs and resets our political discourse in this country. And you cannot have a reset when you have the same players who have been present in our politics continuing. Then in that case, why will Raila leaving anyway? Because there's no reset. So in a reset situation where Raila is not in our politics, it's only naturally expected that all those who've been occupying this space for the last 30 years must take cue from the father of politics the last 30 years and exit with him. They should also aspire for you can go to East Africa Federation, go to COMESA, find things in the regional body, also aspire to continental issues. They don't have to continue because here locally we are now going to have a reset of our politics. And everybody from President Ruto to Kalonzo to Salia, Wetangula, all of them who've been in our public space for the last 30 years. Now between that cluster of group, you're talking over 200 years experience. Between that group I'm mentioning, there are over 200 years experience in our politics. Kalonzo alone has 40 years. In the last, he's been in our space. So what new do we expect from that group? There's nothing new you expect if you are doing a reset. Otherwise, then there's no reason why Raila should leave. He can as well stay here, they continue with that, more of the same. But if he's leaving, he's resetting and rejigging our politics. So we must accept that everybody else who has been part of that history.
That is if he is leaving.
And he's already communicated that he's leaving to the AU. And he's aspiring to become the chairperson. And we wish him well to win. Because there's no other person, in my view, again in Kenya, who will espouse Pan-Africanism in the similar breath like Raila will do. So he has to win that one. And once he wins it, we must also now reset our politics. Let these people who have been there for the last 40 years, time is up. Let them also go continental. Let them go regional. Let them allow Kenyan people to now rejig their politics to respond to their today's needs. their issues have been overtaken by events. In that cluster of politicians, if you ask any of them to tell you what the impact of AI in the health sector, you'll be shocked. They don't even know what AI is. Cannot even discuss it. But that is where the world is going to into the future. They cannot discuss that space. And their politics of the last 20 years, 30 years, has led us to where we are today.
Okay.
Kenyans are poorer today than they were yesterday. And Kenyans are guaranteed they are going to pay more to get government services than they were paying yesterday. Kenyans are being taxed more today than they were being taxed yesterday. But that is the policy and the politics of this group. So we must reset, we must rejig the game. So let us have fresh ideas, fresh players coming into the scene and offering themselves for leadership. That is where we come in. And we are not saying we are the only ones. We encourage other Kenyans who fit the bill to come on board. Let's have a competition of ideas, a competition of ideology, a competition of what we desire for the country, future of this nation. And the best idea will win on the ballot. That is what we're asking for. Okay. But if you're going to debate old ideas and new ideas, the old ideas have been tried and tested. They've led us to where we are today. The pain is plainly visible to everybody. If that is what Kenyans want, they are there. I always give the easiest example. I am offering myself to be deputy president of Kenya. My competition is Rigathi Gachagua. If he represents what Kenyans want, he's there. Continue with him. No one stops you. But if you want to rejig the presidency and bring fresh young blood that is full of revolutionary ideas to turn our economy and to change the trajectory of this nation, I'm here. So the choice is very clear. Choose between him and myself. And the people of Kenya will have their day to make that choice. So also with Kalonzo Musyoka. There's nothing new he's going to present to the people of Kenya, in my view. We've seen his policies, we've seen ideologies. He's been part of our politics and conversation for the last 40 years. There's nothing new he will bring. How do we reset this country with the same thinking, the same politics that we practiced for the last 30 years? That's what it represents. That is what William Ruto represents. All of them must go. And Raila has set the bar higher. That even as you go, aim for something continental. Go to the AU or go to COMESA or East Africa Community.
Here we are, Wakili, and I want us to be very pragmatic and realistic on this particularly. Now, just by saying that Kalonzo should also exit the scene, definitely Safina Party leader Jim Wanjigi does not expect that to happen. And I suspect that Kalonzo would be here to stay. Certain political analysts and commentators would actually agree with me that Kalonzo's presence would still be here with us. Now, how does his presence or lack of it tilt the political landscape?
But I've just told you, his history speaks for itself. He does not present anything new or revolutionary that can change this country. It's more of the same.
Okay.
So there is no tilting of the landscape. In fact, even in the absence of Raila, in my view, he cannot even inherit that entire constituency that Baba's had. For the simple reason, look, he has made his formation. He's the presidential candidate, Eugene is the running mate, Wairia is the chief cabinet secretary, at least from what they are presenting to the public so far. They've left the bedrock of what was Raila's support. One of the foundational bedrocks of Raila's support. The Luo Nyanza constituency is not in that formation. They don't have them, but they want the votes. So even the makeup that Raila had made, they're excluding that constituency. How do you expect that constituency to follow them? Okay. That's number one. Number two, in terms of ideology, in terms of policy, what are they talking about on the platform? What do they represent to the people of Kenya as the policy consideration that is different from William Ruto's? I'm yet to hear one. Okay. So yes, he can continue if he so desires. No one will force him out. Ours is just what we call friendly advice. That in this setup, with the exit of Baba, imminent exit of Baba from the local scene, they should also emulate him and go continental. Okay. Because then it means Baba leaving rejigs our politics. It resets our political conversation. They cannot continue with the old politics. I've told you he's the most consequential political figure in the last 30 years. He's actually the godfather of politics in Kenya. When the godfather moves to the next level, you also aspire higher. Those who played with him in that arena, they should also now go continental, go regional. Then allow fresh people to come with the ideas. And I've said, it doesn't have to be me and Jimmy Wanjigi only. We encourage other people to come. Let's have a proper conversation of ideas that have not been formed our politics for the last 30 years. Because the ones for the last 30 years, we can see where it has led us to. It has led us to a country that is almost on debt distress. A country that is seeking every day to bankrupt its citizens. As I sit here today, for the first time in the history of Kenya, for you to be registered as a Kenyan, to get an ID, you must pay 300 Kenya shillings. I mean, if your country charges you to register you, to give you a document of identification, how hostile can that country be to you? Because an ID should be given for free. Because that is the first point that the country is saying, we now admit you as one of us since your birth. And most of the people who get registered for the first time, they don't have jobs. They are still school students. Because going forward, now you're an adult, every engagement you will have, you will need an ID. Even to go to higher education, to access loans, to get employment, you must have an ID. Your country is telling you, you must pay 300 Kenya shillings before you do that. How hostile can a country be? But that is the politics of the last 30 years. We are saying, seed space for people with the new ideas. A Kenyan ID should be free to all Kenyans. And a replacement ID cannot be 1,000 Kenya shillings. People lose their IDs largely because of insecurity. Insecurity because the government has failed to provide security to citizens. They are mugged. They lose their IDs. Then the same government that failed to protect you comes to you to pay, asks you to pay 1,000 shillings to get a replacement, to participate in the economy. No. That is what must come to an end. We must have a proper new beginning. And that new beginning will be the emancipation of the black man. The economic empowerment of the Kenyan and the black man. It is a new beginning. Baba already gave us our political rights. That struggle has come to an end. In terms of now we have our political rights. We can challenge governments. We can vote in elections. Those were the struggles that Baba did that gave us all these rights. Now is a new struggle for economic emancipation of the Kenyan man.
Okay. Finally, as we wind up this show, we expect the President, William Ruto, to run again in 2027. You're saying here that the kind of lineup that Kalonzo Musyoka is fronting, supposedly for you right now, doesn't actually take into account the constituency of the base of Raila Odinga, that is the Luo Nation region. Now, is there a possibility that if at all Kalonzo Musyoka fails to inherit that particular constituency, then perhaps President William Ruto would have a upper hand and we would see a number of him receiving a number of votes from that particular
region? The Luo Nation must... What is William Ruto offering the Luo Nation? CS and PS. The reducible minimum for the Luo Nation is the position of deputy president. Anybody who desires to have a conversation with the Luo Nation should start by saying, I commit to appoint one of your own to be my running mate in the elections. Then the rest we can discuss. So if William Ruto continues with Gachagua or his Nyoro, whoever he wants, without offering the reducible minimum, why should the Luo Nation have a conversation with him? Because they are retiring or suspending a presidential quest. They've always had a presidential candidate who was a formidable candidate. Now you want to reduce them to nothing. It's onus upon the Luo Nation to say no. Our irreducible minimum should be the position of deputy president. And anybody who desires to get those votes should meet that irreducible minimum. Before we discuss the next question of ideology and the share of government, what do you mean for change of this country? How do you intend to emancipate Kenyans from the economic malaise they are in today? Those are subsequent conversations. But the first conversation, irreducible minimum for the Luo Nation is deputy.
You're proudly saying that is where Jimmy Wanjigi comes in.
I've not even anybody else. Kalonzo should be told the reducible minimum is deputy. William Ruto should be told the reducible minimum is deputy. Jimmy will be told the reducible minimum is deputy. Each of them to choose the deputies then. Once they've chosen the deputies, then we can now continue the conversation. That is my invitation to the Luo Nation. Our irreducible minimum is deputy president.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that has been the conversation here on the kind of impact that Raila's imminent exit from the political scene right now would actually have to this country's political landscape, with the tides changing so fast. And here is Wakili Willis Otieno actually backing up the statements of Safina party leader Jimmy Wanjigi that Kalonzo Musyoka should actually follow suit and retire with the former Prime Minister. Well, tell us what you think about this. Do you think that Kalonzo Musyoka will actually heed to the advice of Jimmy Wanjigi, or he will still stay here and we witness a contest between him, President Ruto, and other presidential candidates come the year 2027? Well, we are here and all our eyes are on the ground. We're waiting to see how this will actually fall out in the long run. Allow me to stop this conversation at this particular moment. If at all you're watching us for the first time, kindly subscribe to this channel here, and of course stay tuned to all our programs that will be coming up here. Jadel Kabiro, Professor Herman Manyora, as well as Richard Mwenja are all part of this family, and they will be actually bringing you up to date with the analysis of all that is taking place in this country as well. Thank you for being part of us. Thank you for being part of this family. From the Country Talk with Evans Okinyi, I'm more than glad to actually have you on board once again. Till we have this conversation again, have yourself a lovely day. My name is Evans Okinyi.